Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. If you want peace, if you want power, if you want purpose, you've got to learn to act like you don't care. Not because you're cold, not because you've lost your empathy, not because you're above people, but because if you keep caring about everything, you'll break before you ever build. You can't care what every person thinks. You can't carry the weight of every opinion. You can't bleed every time someone misunderstands you. You can't break every time someone doesn't clap. You've got to learn how to stay calm when they question you. Stay focused when they judge you. Stay grounded when they ignore you. And move forward when they leave you behind. That's what acting like you don't care really means. It means protecting your energy. It means letting people talk while you keep walking. It means not showing your hand when they're trying to read your soul. It means letting your silence speak louder than their gossip. You see, the world will poke at you. It'll test your emotions. It'll throw shade just to see if you'll dim your own light. But when you learn to act like you don't care, you stop performing for approval. Because that's what too many people are doing. Living their life as one long performance, hoping for applause. They post to be seen. They speak to be liked. They change who they are to keep people who don't even respect them. You want to know what that does? That drains you. That empties your soul. That weakens your conviction. So let me say it straight. You need to stop caring about things that don't deserve your care. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them misunderstand. That's not your burden to carry. You're not here to convince them. You're not here to explain yourself every time they question you. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be real. You're here to be whole. You're here to walk in purpose. And purpose doesn't ask for permission. Purpose doesn't wait for applause. Purpose doesn't change outfits to match the room. It walks in bold. It speaks with clarity. It moves in silence and lets results speak. So when I say, act like you don't care, I'm not telling you to become heartless. I'm telling you to become untouchable, emotionally grounded, mentally locked in, spiritually guarded. Because when people can't control you emotionally, they can't distract you from your mission. They'll try to get reactions. They'll try to bait you into arguments. They'll try to make you explain your boundaries. Don't fall for it. You've got to be like water, calm, steady, powerful. They throw a rock in, you ripple, then reset. You don't splash, you don't spill, you hold your form. That's what the great ones do. They act like they don't care. Not because they're arrogant, but because they're aligned. They know what matters. They know what they're here to build. They know which opinions pay rent in their mind and which ones get evicted. So stop handing out emotional access to people who haven't earned it. Stop explaining yourself to people who've already made up their minds. Stop defending your growth to people who benefited from your stagnation. You owe yourself better than that. You owe your future peace. You owe your mind protection. You owe your path clarity. And that means acting like you don't care. Not because you've shut down, but because you've leveled up. You ever notice how the people doing the least always got the most to say? They're not building. They're not grinding. They're not waking up early or staying up late to create something. But they've got energy for gossip. They've got time to throw shade. They've got opinions like they're investing in your vision. And if you care too much, you'll start listening to people who don't even live with discipline. You'll start adjusting your focus to please the unfocused. You'll start shrinking your standards to fit someone else's comfort zone. That's not growth. That's compromise. And it's time to stop. You've got a mission. You've got a gift. You've got something inside of you that the world doesn't get to define. And if they don't understand it, good. It's not for them to understand. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misquote you. Let them assume what they want. While they're doing that, you keep moving. You keep building. You keep becoming. Because when you stop caring about their opinion, you finally start hearing your own voice again. You hear your own calling louder. You start operating from within instead of reacting to the noise outside. And trust me, they'll notice. The moment you stop chasing their approval, they'll start chasing your attention. The moment you stop reacting to the drama, they'll start trying harder to pull you into it. Why? Because your peace threatens their chaos. Your detachment exposes their desperation. Your discipline makes their excuses uncomfortable. Acting like you don't care isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It means you're choosing your battles. It means you've matured past meaningless conflict. It means you've learned that not everything deserves your fire. See, when you were younger, you used to fight everything. You used to explain everything. You used to care what everybody thought. But now you pick your peace over your pride. Now you pick your focus over your feelings. Now you protect your mind like your future depends on it. Because it does. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you've gone quiet. Let them say you don't care anymore. They're right. You don't. You don't care to prove. You don't care to perform. You don't care to pretend. What you care about is alignment. What you care about is clarity. What you care about is moving forward with less noise and more purpose. Because that's what growth looks like. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like deleting a number. Sometimes it looks like not responding to a message. Sometimes it looks like saying nothing at all and letting silence be your boundary. And here's the best part. When you stop caring about things that don't matter, you have more room to care about what does. You start caring about your health, your energy, your mindset, your discipline, your dreams. You start feeding the parts of you that were starving while you were too busy people-pleasing. You start showing up for yourself the way you showed up for everybody else. You start listening to your own needs instead of always reacting to someone else's drama. And in that space, you get stronger, you get sharper, you get quieter, but louder where it counts. Because now you're no longer driven by emotion, you're driven by mission. Let me tell you what happens when you stop over-caring. You start choosing yourself, and not in some selfish surface-level way. I'm talking about sacred self-respect, the kind that says, I am no longer available for chaos. I am no longer on call for disrespect. I am no longer invested in conversations that drain me and lead nowhere. You stop playing small just to be accepted. You stop laughing at jokes that were never funny. You stop over-explaining decisions that were never up for debate. You learn to be unmoved, not emotionless, just unshaken, not heartless, just clear. And that kind of energy, it makes people uncomfortable, especially the ones who got used to you being too available, especially the ones who were used to your silence, your tolerance, your need to be liked. But here's what they don't understand. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You became clear on what matters, clear on what deserves your reaction, clear on what you're no longer willing to give time to. Because here's the truth. Most people avoid. Peace comes at a cost. You've got to be willing to let go of noise, let go of drama, let go of people who expect you to explain your boundaries, justify your growth, or apologize for your success. And when you learn to act like you don't care, you stop asking for permission to protect your peace. You stop showing up to every battle just because you were invited. You stop putting out every fire that someone else set. You stop draining your spirit for people who wouldn't lift a finger if the tables were turned. Because here's what matters more than how they feel about you, how you feel about yourself. Can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I stayed true? Can you stand on your word, even if it made you unpopular? Can you walk away when the room is no longer aligned with your values? That's maturity. That's self-respect. That's strength. And that's what acting like you don't care truly means. It means you don't flinch when someone disapproves. You don't spiral when someone criticizes. You don't panic when someone walks away. because your peace no longer depends on being understood. Your confidence no longer needs applause. Your identity is no longer tied to opinions. You know who you are. You know what you're about. You know what you bring to the table, and you're done explaining it to people who come empty-handed. Now let's get deeper. The people who misunderstand your growth will call it arrogance. They'll call your detachment cold. They'll call your confidence ego. But here's the truth. They're not threatened by your change. They're threatened because they can't control you anymore. You stopped bending. You stopped chasing. You stopped giving out emotional discounts to people who never paid full price for your presence. And that's what happens when you learn to act like you don't care. You become free. Free from approval addiction. Free from emotional manipulation. Free from the constant need to explain yourself just to be enough. You are enough. You always were. You just stopped living for their permission and started living for your peace. You know what's dangerous? A person who knows their worth and doesn't argue about it. You walk in the room and you don't beg for recognition. You sit at the table and don't need to prove your value. You let your presence speak louder than your need to be liked. That's power. And that's what happens when you stop caring about being understood and start caring about being aligned. Because here's what happens when you overcare. You overthink. You overextend. You over-apologize. You overcompensate for other people's discomfort. And that's how you stay stuck. Let me remind you, you are not here to water yourself down so someone else can feel tall. You are not here to shrink just because your light makes someone squint. You are not here to edit your essence to be accepted. You are here to stand in your truth, unapologetically. And when you learn to act like you don't care, you become laser-focused. You don't waste energy on distractions. You don't let every whisper break your rhythm. You don't let small minds set the tone for your big vision. You rise above it. You zoom out. You stop getting caught in the weeds of pettiness and opinion. Because you've got work to do. You've got purpose to fulfill. You've got standards now, and not everyone makes the cut. Let me ask you something. How much time have you already lost caring about the wrong things? Caring about why they didn't text back? Caring about who unfollowed you? Caring about what they said behind your back? Caring about if you're too much or not enough for somebody else's comfort zone? What did all that caring ever give you? Stress, exhaustion, resentment, regret. But when you made that switch, when you started acting like you didn't care, you got quiet, you got intentional, you got lighter, you got free. And listen, this ain't about building walls. This ain't about being numb or disconnected. This is about discernment, about emotional maturity, about not allowing your peace to be held hostage by people who wouldn't protect it. That's not selfish. That's self-aware. So stop handing out backstage passes to people who don't belong in your inner circle. Stop caring about what doesn't align. Stop apologizing for evolving beyond environments that no longer fit. Because when you learn to act like you don't care, you stop chasing what you were never meant to hold. You stop explaining what was never meant to be understood. You stop forcing what was never meant to stay. You start walking different. You start commanding rooms with your silence. You start showing up as the highest version of yourself. Not for them, for you. Because the only approval that matters now is the version of you who promised not to give up again. So now you're in a new season. And this season requires something different from you. Not more noise, not more performance, not more pretending. This season requires peace, precision, presence. And to step into that fully, you must release the need to care about everything. You must stop assigning value to opinions that don't build you. You must stop emotionally reacting to people who are spiritually disconnected. You must stop breaking your own boundaries to make others feel safe. Because you've got a different assignment now. A higher calling, a sharper mindset, and a tighter circle. The old you cared too much about being liked. The new you cares too much about being free. The old you overthought everything. The new you trusts your gut and moves in silence. The old you showed up for everyone. The new you shows up for yourself. First, fully, and unapologetically. And yes, people will talk. Let them. They're allowed to be confused by your growth. They're allowed to dislike the way you protect your peace now. But you're no longer in the business of explaining your glow to those who stayed in the dark by choice. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You didn't stop loving. You started loving yourself more. You didn't build walls. You built wisdom. So from this point forward, learn to act like you don't care, not because you don't feel, but because you refuse to leak energy into anything beneath your purpose. Let them wonder, let them talk, let them walk, because you're no longer attached to anything that costs you your peace. You're no longer obsessed with being understood. You're no longer dancing for validation. You're here to build. You're here to move. You're here to align. And anything that tries to pull you off that path doesn't deserve a second of your energy. That's what maturity looks like. That's what strength feels like. That's what freedom sounds like. It's the power to smile and stay silent. It's the wisdom to walk away and never explain. It's the confidence to rise without the crowd. It's the peace of knowing you don't need to care to be powerful. You just need to be clear. So stop giving your light to people who never respected your shine. Stop inviting your critics to sit at your table. Stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself alignment. You owe yourself truth. And that begins when you stop being available for everything that doesn't serve you. So the next time someone tries to shake your center, the next time they come with judgment, with noise, with gossip, with doubt, act like you don't care. Not because you're bitter, because you finally built something too beautiful to destroy with reaction. Because you've got vision. Because you've got purpose. Because you've got work to do. And if they can't handle your growth, let them shrink alone. But you walk on, you rise up, you act like you don't care, because you're finally at peace with who you are, and there's no going back. If you made it this far, drop 100 in the comments, so I know you're part of the 1% who's serious about growth.